Aloha, friends and family. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Embodied Healing Self. So, you've heard me talk so much about emotional healing and the work I've done with Cor. And this week's special guest, I bring to you one of the co-founders of the Cor experience, Britta Eskey. Britta co-founded Celebration of Being, which later became Cor in 1997. She's been working internationally with people from all walks of life for over 35 years. Her background is in social work, family and couples therapy, family constellation work, Gestault. Did I say that right?
Gestault.
Gestault. Is that a German?
Yes.
Okay. Gestalt therapy, dance and movement, spiritual direction, emotional release, and life coaching. She is also a certified teacher of the compassion cultivation training developed at Stanford University. She has co-developed all of the workshops and trainings offered at Cor, which include Cor Women, A Noble Man, Kings and Queens. I'm going to share the links in the show notes at the end so that you can find out more information on that. She facilitates Cor's leadership and advanced leadership and development training, which I was also a part of. She's happily married to Lee Eskey, another wonderful human being, and is the proud mother of 2 adult sons and a grandmother to 2 granddaughters. Britta loves to sing and to combine creative expression like dance, voice, and theater together with sacred chant, one of my favorites, devotional practices, and deep inner spiritual work. She brings a laser direct, honestly combined with gentle compassion, wrapped in non-judgmental wisdom. Her greatest joy is to assist people in finding and living their purpose, potential, and aliveness. So it is with deepest honor and gratitude that I am hosting Britta on the show today. She has been such an incredible force of transformation in my life, as a mother, as a wife, as a person, as a business owner, just as a human being. In the short 2.5 years since my first Cor workshop, I kind of went all into the work because I was so in love with it, and it's just radically changed my life. And I'm just so grateful to be in this space with you and be able to share that with the listeners. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So what I really want to share with people today is, and my listeners know that my idea of well-being is very multidimensional and has many layers. And I've had my own journey of a health crisis that took me into health coaching, and had a second health crisis when I was eating really healthy, which then led me down to the path of spiritual growth and emotional healing, which was when I found, maybe just 2 years later, I found Cor. And my experiences with Cor, and I've done all of the workshops that you've offered. I've done your advanced leadership and development training. And my life has changed in so many ways. It's just opened up in so many ways and healed so many parts of my life, my relationships with my kids, my husband, my parents, my work, just my own inner self and being in the world. And one of the things that I talk about is the importance of healing the heart. In fact, Cor is the Latin word for heart.
Yes.
And, I didn't really know in the beginning of my journey that I didn't really think about like healing your heart and your connection to grace, your spirit, as being part of our well-being, but actually is such a huge part of our well-being. And so one of the things I've talked about on the show multiple times in many different episodes is those core wounds that can come up. And this was something that I actually learned through Cor, and how those core wounds often become our greatest gifts in the world. And that is what I really want to share with the listeners today. So as we begin to share that, I want to invite you just to share, like, how did you get into this work through Celebration of Being?
Well, it's a great story, really, because my former partner and the co-founder of Celebration of Being, Rajo, she this is a great story, actually, because it's a typical story of how a wound can be made into a gift. Like she kind of, you could say, got a download about this work, in a time when she was like really desperate, this work started in Europe. I'm German and she was English, and she is still English. And so she was actually at that point supposed to immigrate to Australia, get married, immigrate to Australia, start a whole new life there, and the whole thing fell apart. Like the marriage didn't work, or the engagement didn't work, and she ended up back in England, living in her father's tiny little cramped apartment in London, and being completely like devastated about that, about everything having fallen apart. And she tells a story where she was like on her knees in this tiny little, if you've been in England and London, every other places are tiny, in this tiny little place by her bed, and just on her knees, like just going, what, and I don't know what to do, and then just literally like this voice that said, okay, now we can begin, like now we can begin, now that basically that you're on your knees, and it was like, because she felt like she had nothing to offer, and she was like a disaster in relationship, and something just came through, which was at that time was really about kind of a rite of passage workshop for women, so this is how this started. It was like, and she started this in England with another few women over there, and then she brought this over here where I joined her a couple of years later, and it was beginning for women, but I remember when she came and told me about it, we were friends then, and I was like, yeah, a women's workshop, like I've done so many of those, and it's like, like another thing, and and she's like, no, trust me, this is something special. So we put together like 10 of our girlfriends, and she just led the workshop, and I was like, oh my God, like it was like I've been with these girlfriends for years, and I'd never seen them like that, like I was like, whoa, and I've never seen myself like that. There was just something that happened in my bones when like each woman goes through this rite of passage that was like so strong, that I knew, like I was like, this is my work too, like, and it was like, and she immediately asked me, she said, do you want to do this with me, like, and it was such a gift, and and it's like a great example of someone who didn't think they had anything to give, and giving over, like letting go, and letting it be transformed, the pain, or the like, there's sometimes she let herself be broken open, because when we have a heartache or heartbreak, it can either close us down, and make us shut down and careful and protective and really guarded, so that we never get hurt again, right? Or we can let it break us open, and that's what she did, right? And from that one woman saying yes in that moment, there's probably thousands of people that have benefited from that yes, like including me, including you, right? Including like so many people, so, and I think this is what we're all called to do. We all, it might not always be that dramatic, like she is very dramatic, so for some people it happens in that way. For some people it's very subtle and much less, like volatile maybe, but this is the same process, like of letting ourselves be broken open to something, into a gift, like you are now, right?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, like with your whole story, you've had so much suffering, right? And so much crisis, and now here you are doing this podcast, like where you're sharing it and counseling others and sharing everything that you've learned, so hopefully someone else doesn't have to go through so much pain as you did, right? Like they can like learn from that and benefit from that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. And one of the things I often say is that vulnerability is the gateway to our potential. And I love how you shared that everybody has a different experience. I'm a person who, has deep experiences, very open. And I know that my husband, he will integrate at a slower pace over a longer period of time. So we all do have our own unique experiences when we do this transformational work. And I really love that you shared that it was formed on the idea of having a rite of passage for women. And I'm wondering what there was, you mentioned that you knew when you were doing the workshop that it was something that you wanted to do. What would you say is the need or the desire or the longing? We'll just start with women, because now you're doing workshops with men too, and we see that they have, you know, the same longing and need and desires that we do to heal. But what would you say is really the number one thing that we're seeking, and we may not even be consciously aware of, but that we, when we go through the process of the workshop and we do our own healing, that we are fulfilled in some way because we're fulfilled for that thing that we're longing? What would you say that that is?
You know, I wish I would know exactly how to say that. You know, like, it's like I've been trying to like describe that for years, you know, and I think it lands for everybody a little different, you know, but for me, I can tell you, for me, it was like stay, like a really deep connection, you know. It's kind of like, I mean, I had my own rite of passage in that workshop. It just felt like something inside of me, like as almost like the sleeping beauty awoke or something, you know, like something I always knew was there, like a power, a beauty, a connection, you know, like, but I kind of knew this intellectually, you know, but not really in my body. And I felt like I keep feeling like my bones, you know, they got transformed or something. Like it's just like in my body, I felt like I am so powerful, you know, and not just me, you know, like, and that's the other thing. It wasn't just about me, how great I am or something. Like, it was like, no, we are all amazing human being, and like, there's so much potential that I'm just scratching the surface on, you know, like that's sort of what I, and I always knew that. I always, like, since I was a little girl, I knew there's more to this than what I see, you know, or like, I felt like we're all kind of a little bit subdued. We're in these little boxes, and, you know, where we put ourselves into, or where the world puts us into, or society or school or whatever, you know, like, and there's so much more there, you know. And so for some people, I think it's like, it's that, the longing for more, you know, they don't even know what it is. Like, they just know there's like a restlessness or something, you know, like, and like, it's like, I know there's something. And I just remember this as a kid, I would look around and go like, there is something else going on than just what my parents are telling me, you know, like, and so for some people, I think it's that. And for some people, it's like they're really in pain, you know, they're experiencing something like a divorce, or an illness, or a health crisis, or something else that's really painful for them, and they are looking for relief or healing from the pain, you know, like it's just very simple. It's like hope and healing is what we look for, right?
Yeah. And I just want to say that the space that's created in these workshops is one of great, deep love and care and nurturing. And I've been on the side of staffing and holding the space, so I know both sides of it. And there's just something about the way this work has been created that I think has trickled down from you and Lee and the other facilitators that are just so amazing. That you know, it's the love and the care, I think, that just keeps trickling down to create the space that really gives people permission, as an invitation to just be present to the truth of what's coming up, like in a place of unconditional love versus fear, which I think is, you know, the most powerful part, really. I know it was for me. I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. I had no idea. It was sort of like one of those, you know, kind of God things. Britta is the one who invited me in. I didn't read anything. I just knew, I felt it in my body. I had to go. I showed up with my surfboard. I thought I was going surfing, and, you know, and oh yeah. And I left. She kind of just winked at me and she's like, okay. And, you know, I just left the workshop a completely new person. It just felt like I was shedding old skin that was feeling heavy, and I felt lighter and I felt new. And, you know, there were so many, and I think a lot of women experience this, which the Cor Woman workshop is the first for women. And then you go on to do the Noble Man, which is super special, to be in a room with men as they're healing. And then there's the men and women together as the kings and queens. And there's the Radiant Woman, where, you know, it's so beautifully orchestrated to heal the different ways that we show up in our life. So how we show up with as a woman, which I already was in conflict with. I mean, I was super masculine, right? So military, all that. So how we show up in relation with ourself as a woman, as a mother, a daughter, a wife, however that comes up for each of us, how we show up in relations with men. And then also the invitation to kind of become aware of the relationships that we have in our life and how we show up. Usually what we begin to recognize is that the way that we show up in one area of our life, including food, by the way, like relationship with food, like what your thoughts are about it, are very similar to how we can show up in our other relationships, because it's our perception of who we are in that relationship. And so it's really, really powerful work. It's not even really about, it's not about the external world. It's really, you know, the inner work. And what I love is that the workshops, which came to Florida, because you've been doing this in California for 35 years, but in California for, I don't know, 25 years, and came to Florida 3 years ago, which I was at the first workshop in Florida, which was so amazing. But there's just something about the space that gives people permission to really heal. And what I notice, what was met for me was, I just needed the permission to just know that I could be loved when I was going to share vulnerability. Because I think a lot of times as women, and I'm going to speak to just the women first, that we are living in a time, like right now on the planet, the time that we are living in it's transformational, it's amazing, it's magical. And your generation and my generation, we are carrying a little bit of the weight of what expectations were put onto women. And now in my generation, I see this, like, we can do everything we want to do. We're allowed to. But now we've gotten ourselves into a place where that didn't really serve us either. And so what I really feel like the work that my personal work was really, you know, shedding the skin of living in a place of proving myself and what success looked like for me as a mom, as a businesswoman, as a wife, and just completely letting go of those identities so that I could really rediscover and come back to who I am and who I was born to be. And to me, there is no greater gift for each person than to really rediscover or come home to the truth of who we are. And so I say that to the listeners because I hear the concerns and the excuses that come up of, you know, why we're not eating healthier or working out or changing our marriage or changing our job, where we continue to live in discomfort and because we're afraid. And one of the questions I ask women when I start working with them is like, what is it that you want in your life? And a lot of times they don't even know. So I just wanted to share that has been my experience, and also that it goes beyond that. It goes the workshops, you know, with the men too, which was super powerful for many of us to heal those relationships in a brotherly way, in a you know, with your spouse or your partner, with your father. Like there's just so many relationships that we show up in that are really asking for healing. And my big why, as you know, as I've always talked about, is because I'm a mother. And so I wanted to heal because I didn't want to pass any of that on to my children. So I was so grateful for that. When you think about the work that you've been committed to, and you've trained all over the world, the level of commitment that you've made to this work is beyond words, really. I mean, the bio that I read really is just kind of touching the surface. I mean, you've been committed to healing in this way for most of your life. And when you think about, the work that you've done over 30 years or 35 years, and you think about the mission of the work that you do, what is it that keeps you going?
That's a really good question. Well, I think it is that mission, it's like I would love to be, there's this great quote by George Bernard Shaw where he's like, I want to be all used up when I die. It's like I want to be all used up. I want to be used, I want to be an instrument of that love, like that. One could say the word, like it's like a transforming love, like that presence that you feel when you go into a core workshop, that is way beyond any of us, but it's something that we're holding, it's like that loving presence is powerful, it's not like La La Land or something, it's very powerful, and it really does allow the darkness in us, because we all have like a shadow part or parts that we're hiding, or that we'd rather not anyone know about, but they're eating on us, these parts, right? It's like they all are allowed to come forth, in a very strong, loving place. And with both truth, like that we're actually honest about what's happening. And because that's another thing, we all lie a lot or hide a lot or pretend a lot, because we don't think it's acceptable. Who we are is not okay, or what we're thinking or feeling is not okay, and we should be different. And so we pretend, and one of the things that keep me going is just honesty. I love honesty. I love when people are real. I actually don't know how to make small talk. It's like when I go to these social events, I'm totally awkward because I'm like,
yeah, me too.
Can we just talk about our deepest pain or something? Like when people go like, and what do you do for a living? And what, I'm just like, oh, like it's so uncomfortable, like I don't really, I just love to dive right in, and so honesty is just one of the things that keeps me going. And I love the space of honesty. I love when people are real with each other. Like, even like the first night when people kind of are getting their feet wet and they're like starting to share with each other. And then you can immediately feel the whole space is like plopping, it's like from the blah, blah, blah to something deep and real. And people relax and go, okay, I don't have to pretend here, I can be real. And I love to provide that kind of space, or train. By now it's a lot of other people are trained in this, and so I love to spread that give people a break from having to pretend to be somebody that they're not.
And that just goes to say, like, what we're talking about here is not just a workshop or a series of workshops. It's a community, and anybody who's been to one of these workshops knows when I say this, it's like, I think of it as like that awkward phase of dating. You kind of skip that whole thing, and then like the friends that you get from this community, it's like it's like you've known them for years, because you skip that whole, like you said, pretending awkwardness. Like you go straight to the authenticity, straight to the raw and real. And it, in my experience, just from every workshop that I've been in, all you have to do is just say that you went to one of those workshops, and it just you immediately go into a super real, authentic conversation. And it's, we were just talking about how I was in a circle 2 weeks ago, and I met Jess for the first time, and I just knew. I was like, so are you doing core? And then I just said it, I did leadership development training. She just gave me the big hug. She's like, okay, I love you now. It's just like this instant it's just this knowing. I think I can best describe it as like, it's just this knowing that the people who are in the community have been committed to doing the deep inner work and to healing. And like you said, none of this healing is about us. It's not because we're awesome, or, you know, and we all are. Everybody's equally awesome, but it's we're healing on for a ripple effect on a collective level. And there's just kind of this knowing within the community that we're committed to that process, because it's, you know, it's a little uncomfortable to take the courage to spend the time away from your family, to take the courage to be willing to go into that work. I think Marianne Williams had a quote that said something like, light workers are people who transform the shadow into light, the darkness into light, that don't, you know, just go around it, but we're the ones that transform it. And that's, you know, some of the work that we do in those workshops. My favorite work that I learned, that I carry with me in the coaching that I do now, that I've been able to see with the clients that come to me, and this all started through health coaching, which then evolved more into life coaching and spiritual coaching, is the idea of a core wound that we talk about, and how we have survivor strategies that keep us safe for a really long time. We develop these beliefs, they could be self-limiting beliefs. People have different words for them. We develop survivor strategies. And often what I see is that those strategies, they work really well for us for a long time. We may get to some level of success. We may believe that we kept ourselves safe. You know, we may believe that, our worth was in our success, the success of our business, or in the relationship that we're in. And then in some point in time, we realize that that's not serving us anymore. It's not even really working anymore. And maybe we become stuck, or maybe we have a breakdown. Mine was in health. I had a health crisis 13 years ago, radically changed my life. Maybe we have a breakdown in our marriage. Maybe we have a breakdown in a relationship in our family, with our parents, with our children. But most people who are going through life will have an experience where they're called to sort of lean into that personal growth edge. And some people will lean into it and choose to a different choice, and to heal and to lean into it. And some people will keep going around it or over it, and maybe it'll keep coming back. But I really felt like I understood what was happening. As I went through the workshop, I started just to see and understand, and this was just my personal experience. Everybody has a different experience. And I was just able to see and understand how my wounded self as a child, which most of us have some experience where we create survivor strategies, led me to be a really hardworking perfectionist and overachiever, somebody who valued myself and my work. And so it didn't feel unhealthy until I had a health crisis. And now I see that it comes full circle. What's so interesting to me is the way that I showed up for the first 25 years of my life was actually appeared to be pretty good. But my healthy self is actually, interestingly, a person who is doing less.
Yeah.
And so my 2019 theme was like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Like, you can do stuff and you can be good at it, but you don't have to. And what I found when I do workshops or I do work with people, that the less I do and the more I am present, the better I am serving, as a whole, which is a totally new thing for me. I want to invite you just to share a little bit, kind of, how that work was created, and the value of understanding what that core wound is and how it can become our greatest gift, just as you shared with the co-founder of Celebration of Being. And just maybe for the listeners, give them an idea of what is possible to come through in the healing of just recognizing a pattern like that.
Right. So I have actually, I could tell you my own pattern, that I saw is like not too different from you. That is like, so I grew up in a very, one could say, dysfunctional family. Like it's like very. I love my parents, and they did the best they could, but it was tough. Like, and they were really both very immature. Like, and so they had us very young, and there was alcoholism involved, and like, and it was like intense. And so I became the caretaker of everybody. Like I was four. I remember this feeling like being 4 years old and kind of feeling like I'm zipping myself up, like it's like there's nobody here, like kind of like I'm zipping myself up and I'm pumping myself up. I'm making myself like bigger than I am, like, and I'm gonna take care of everybody, and then maybe, so that's a common survivor strategy. I'm gonna take care of everybody, and then maybe when I take care of all of them, then maybe they'll take care of me, like they'll be well enough to take care of me or something, so that I kind of remember that as a little kid, like when I felt scared, I actually pretended that I wasn't, that I was really big and tough and strong and could handle everything, so, and you could see that too. You would look at me like and say, she's doing great, she went to university, she became a like therapist, she like is a healer kind of person, and how wonderful, like, and but underneath is like that little girl, like never actually could heal, the pain that she went through as a child, so when I did my work, it's like I realized that what I'm completely missing is to receive. Like I just give all the time, like, or I used to give all the time, but I don't know how to receive anything. And I see this a lot with women, right? Like they're caretakers, they're helpers, they're healers, but they actually have no idea how to, like you said, when you ask them what do you want, they don't know. So one of the things to really receive from this is like that all of a sudden your cup, you can fill your own cup, or I can fill my own cup and can give from a very different place, from a place that's full and not draining and not burnout, but actually like you said, it's much less doing and much more being. Like, and that's just one survivor strategy, like there's so many people have such different ones. Yeah.
And I think that's a really, really big one, is for women, is allowing themselves to receive, which has so many layers, right? Like knowing you're worthy of receiving just because of who you are. You don't have to do anything, like you are worthy of receiving. And how would you say that you now in this work allow yourself to receive, knowing that this is the journey that you continue to work, with in your life?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think one of the ways is just what I really love is that we've trained some incredible people that do this work now. So I work much less, like I'm like less, and I love that. I love passing things on and then watching them work and just go like, this is amazing. Like, it's not me that's doing it, like, it's like just to let myself receive in that way too. And even just like when I'm working with people, I don't feel like it's me that is facilitating, like, and I have to come up with some great tools or some great questions or whatever. It's just, I just kind of be myself. And then it's just like, I really have this theory that when we are willing to just be ourselves, like, and to let ourselves be guided, we will be like everything we need, whether we are facilitators or whether we are doing something totally different, moms or like, or professor somewhere, or like whatever, the librarian or whatever it is, that what we need will come to us, like it's like there's much less efforting needed than we think, like the survivor self always efforts and tries and like grasps and like forces and pushes, like, and clings and stuff, and it's not needed. And there's, in one way one could say there's much more relaxation,
and allowing,
versus trying and pushing, trying to prove that we're worth something.
And
Yeah.
that feels like freedom.
Yeah.
Like the word that comes to me that I think many people are seeking. You know, we all want health, we all want money, we all want love, we all want, you know, those things we think about, but we also inwardly, we want peace and freedom. And it feels really good to settle into trusting that all we have to do in this life is just be who we were born to be, like that. And then no one else can do that for us. And that's part of the work that is happening in these workshops, is remembering who that is and what that looks like. And it's a really beautiful gift that you and your amazing facilitators, and I 100% agree. And I just have to say, like, your husband, we just have to bring him up in this because he's an amazing human being. um, you know, really deeply honored to be in the space of just having a healer who is a man, which was super important on my journey. And he's incredible, and all of your facilitators. And it feels like you're planting the seeds in the garden, and, you know, you sow the seeds, and now it's like all of the vegetables and everything are growing and we're all growing and thriving in this community. And it yeah, it must feel really good to relax into that teacher mentor role that you are, and see kind of the fruits of the seeds of the work that you've done, and to know that this work will continue to be sustainable because it is so needed in the world in so many ways, and especially at the time that we're living, that it will continue to be sustainable even if you're not the person running it or lead
Yeah.
facilitating it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was one of my other survivor self, you know. So their strategies, like giving was in a certain sense a strategy, so that I wouldn't have to feel my own
Yeah.
lack of things, you know, like, and another, so there's strategies, and then there's beliefs, and the belief that went along with that was just it's all up to me, like I'm it, you know, like, and if I don't do it, nobody will, and I'm the only one capable of it, you know, like sort
Yeah.
of like an inflated ego, right? Just I really, really remember this feeling of pumping myself up and like inflating myself to you know, like, and so that belief is so painful, you know, like it kind of feels empowering in one level, but it's unbelievably stressful, you know, like it's so stressful to think I have to do everything, you know, like it's not fun. It's not
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And it feels heavy. Like it feels
Heavy.
like your
Yeah.
shoulders and your back and carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And so, what I love to just kind of bring full circle in you sharing your own personal story is you had a childhood where you didn't receive the nurturing that you would have liked to. And now you're in the place where you give the nurturing to a community in a way that you weren't able to receive it. And then also this, you know, belief in survivor strategy that showed up for you in the over giving, you know, giving maybe to receive love or whatever the giving was, has come full circle to allowing yourself to receive in so many ways, but also to receive support from the facilitators that you've trained, which is so wonderful because they really truly are carrying through this work in such an amazing way. And now we've taken it to the East Coast. So we have it in California and Florida, you know, and Colorado. You've done some in Colorado as well. So um, I want to just ask a couple questions kind of about the event in case people are
Hmm.
interested in going as we wrap up. Do you see these workshops being done in other places at this time other than Florida, California, or Colorado?
You know, I'm totally open to this. By the way, also a whole contingency in England, right? Like
Okay.
they're still called Celebration of Being UK, you know, so they're our like daughter organization or some sister organization. And we basically are open to like anyone if there's enough, you know, request, and we go there, you know. That's, we have our facilitators trained, and but for now, you know, we kind of do West Coast, East Coast, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we're putting our focus right now, building, because like you said, it's not just for us about offering workshops is like, so what happens after the workshop, and how to create a community that of people that are like-minded and really support each other and hold each other accountable, and and are really there for each other, so
Mm-hmm.
so that's another whole important aspect for us to sustain the, you have these big aha moments in the workshops and these big hallelujah experiences, but then you also need to actually integrate that into your, what does this mean about in my work life and with my kids, the nitty gritty, the daily nitty gritties, right? Like, how do I be a much more freed up in those areas, so that's also important to us. So we're putting a lot of focus on that, also on creating follow-up programs and community events and things like that. So right now it's East Coast and West Coast.
Yeah, and I love that you put the emphasis on the community too, because it is such a powerful piece of the inner work is having the experience and then integrating it into your life, which is such an important part of it, so that we can continue this sort of new way that we want to show up after we do the work.
Yeah.
So you and I could probably say that these workshops are for everyone. I know that's what I would say. But if somebody's listening right now and they're really interested in, sort of the work that we're talking about, what is something that you could say, or what could you say as to who this is for, or what they, and I know everybody gets kind of what they need out of this experience, but what would you say in this moment, maybe just kind of a little word of wisdom to somebody who's listening, who's thinking about going and they're still not quite sure why they would go? Like, what could you sort of say to just kind of welcome them in or invite them in?
Yeah, and I do want to say is, this isn't necessarily for everybody. Like, one thing is like, you want to be mentally sound, like, because it's like you want to be this doesn't mean that you can't be emotionally, like upset or something, but it's like you want to be mentally well, like, because it is strong work, strong inner work, and you want to be willing to look at something, to look inside, willing that something is calling you, there's an unrest maybe, or something really needs healing. You're noticing you're bumping up against the same thing, like there's a pattern that you just can't get out of, and you do things you don't want to do, or say things you don't want to say, and it's like, and you just know, I know I'm more than this. I know there's more to life than this, like, so, or you might be in a real rite of passage right now where something old is falling away, like maybe you lost a job or a relationship, or a way your kids are leaving home, or something's happening, right? And you're like, I know there's something new, but I don't quite know what it is, and maybe I still need to grieve the old, like, and so I need a space for this whole transformation, like I need a safe space held for me. And so it could be either that you're really wanting something more, or that something in you really needs healing, and or you just like, some people are just like, they're just deep divers, like they just give me a place that's real raw and will rock my soul. I want that. If you're one of those people, you will definitely love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you're not, you'll still love it, because you will learn parts of you will expose parts of you that you didn't know were there, that will just help you to fully allow and receive the wholeness of who you are. And thank you for the clarity on just saying that it's not, if you are not mentally well, it might not be the place for you. And I just want to say that again, the space that is created feels so safe for that, and that you do a good job of making sure that the people who are coming, there's a pretty in-depth questionnaire in order to come, just in order to make sure that it is the right experience for people before they come too. So we appreciate that you shared that.
We want to make sure everybody is safe, and like, like if you're a recovering addict, like you got to have a year of recovery before you come in, and things like that. There's things like that, just to make sure that it's like really a fit and the best way that we can serve you, and But other than that, it's like I would say that it's like, like you don't have to be a deep diver. You just have to want to look inside, like I just want to say this. I just saw, I don't know if anybody here knows the new TV series, The Crown. It's an English series about the English Queen. And they just did an episode. It's episode 7 of the 3rd season, where her husband is going through this crisis in his life, right? Kind of a midlife crisis. And there is this pastor who is having this group sharing going on, and he just totally judges it, and he's just like, oh, these are weaklings that are meeting and talking about their feelings and who are they and God, like, and then he just keeps going, and his life is totally falling apart. And at some point at the end of that episode, he's joining them, and he's like, you know what, he said, it takes much more courage to be here with you guys and share what's really going on for me, than being over there pretending like I've got it all together, like, and I was so impressed by this. I was like, I turned to
love that.
I was like, everybody's got to, if anybody wants to know what we're doing, they should see this episode.
Yeah, like, because, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was really impressed that they brought that to mainstream TV, like that sometimes we need a space where we're heard and where we can let it all out, like, so, and be met with love and compassion and challenged also, to go deeper. Yeah.
And yes, absolutely, 100% to all of that. And so you offer pathways of healing for men and women. Yes. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what there's the core woman and the noble man? Just share maybe 1 or 2 lines about that, and then maybe when the next events are, whether they're in California or Florida.
Oh boy, I don't have my calendar here, but
that's okay.
Let me start with, so Core Woman is only women. They're both rites of passages workshops, so women usually start with Core Woman and into the power of the feminine, and then Noble Men is men come to deal with their relationship with women, like, I mean, they can also bring other issues, but there's a workshop where women are holding the space, and there's facilitators, women facilitators, and women staff. There's also some men that staff, so that you have some brothers on the path. So, but the theme is like men being men in the presence of women, and and they go through whatever they bring, whatever they're bringing, like it can be anything, so so that's how people start with us, with these two, depending on whether they're man or woman. That's how they start. Yeah.
So I've done all the workshops. So for anybody who's listening who knows me, you can reach out to me personally to ask me questions. I'd be happy to share my experience. There's so much I could say around my personal experience, but that's not what this episode is about. I've touched on it on many other episodes. I've healed my relationship with myself, at being a woman, which I had a huge disconnect with, my relationship with my daughters, my dad, my mom. My mom is still the one that I'm still working on a little bit. My husband, my marriage. I mean, I've been with my husband for 21 years, and he's amazing. You've met him, you've had him in workshops, and we thought we had a pretty good marriage, and this just opened up a whole nother level of, deeper connection that I'm so grateful for, where we can communicate in a way where it's like, we're in this together, we're doing this life thing together, and this is what I need. And it feels really vulnerable to ask, even though you've known me forever. I'm just so grateful for that deeper level that he deserves and I deserve. And it's just, it's like it's new all over again. And it's just really, really awesome. And, it's allowed me to transform in the work that I provide in the world, which of course is being of greater service to everybody that I'm working with or coaching. So I'm just super grateful. So I was able to look for the next Core Woman is February 20th to the 23rd, which is in Templeton, close to San Luis Obispo, which is just an amazing little city if you haven't been there. Core Woman Florida is April 30th to May 3rd. So those are the women's events. I'm going to have...
I can just look quickly. I think Nobleman is in March in California, but I can't see it right now. So we'll look at, we're going to look this up.
It's
and also,
March 5th, March 5th to
March
the
5th
8th.
through 8th. Yeah.
Yep. And then 2020 will be in October in Florida. And then you usually do 2 in California and then 1 in Florida. We just brought Nobleman to Florida last year, which my husband and I were a part of. So, we're still in the growing stages in Florida, but, we have a wait list for California. So if you're interested in these workshops, really kind of plan ahead or you can just trust. If you're listening and you're like me, and I saw Bridget just do a post, I didn't even read it, but I knew I had to go. I felt it in my gut and I just reacted to it. And I went, maybe you feel it in your body right now and you just trust that gut instinct that your life is calling you to heal in a way where you don't even know what needs to be healed. And it doesn't mean that you're broken in any way, by the way. It just means that you get to expand and live more in freedom and peace and your truth. So we just invite all the listeners to check out in the show notes. I'm going to share the links to the different events that you offer. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time. You have been the greatest mentor in my life, and I've had many.
Sweetheart, thank you.
I've had many, and I'm so grateful for every moment and the time and the wisdom that you've shared, for every moment that I've shared with you, and there will be more.
Yes.
So, I'm really grateful. Thank you for allowing me to share you. It's a deep, deep honor to share you on the show, and thank you for the work that you've done for yourself and that you've created for the healing of the planet.
Oh, thank you.
And please give my love to Lee from both Chris and I. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday season full of love and joy and peace. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes, same here, honey. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.